As someone that covers the comic book industry basically on a daily basis, has been doing so for about 6 years now, you kind of get to know who the players within the community are, the people that are talking, whether it be the media, the pros themselves, other YouTubers, retailers and stuff like that. And there are certainly retailers out there that when they speak, I absolutely listen. Bill Boyle would be one of those. Brian Hibbs sometimes, but you have to take what he says with a grain of salt. Chuck Krasinski is another one. When he starts saying things aren't going well and he's saying something like that, you should actually take heed. But there are some retailers out there that I don't really pay much attention to. Ryan Higgins is one of them. He owns a shop called Comicsgate. And I see him chiming in a lot of stuff. And most of the time when I've seen it in publisher groups and retailer groups, nobody really pays him any mind. He gets ignored, or he kind of just gets told he's completely wrong. I think he's just kind of a Johnny come lately. And quite frankly, I'm under the impression that he's stupid. And I'm not trying to be hyperbolic or anything like that. I legitimately think Ryan Higgins is dumb. I think he is a moron. And he's not somebody that normally I would listen to, but there was an article on Bleeding Cool that I thought was so funny. I know Richard covered it on Comics Matter with your boy Zach, but I wanted to cover it as well. That this guy would rather see the comic industry burn if it didn't actually bend to his will and his wishes and what he thinks the comic book industry could be, and starts calling people names because Phil Boyle did write an article and it was so on the money. There was so much truth there that everyone had to come out and actually acknowledge it and give their 2 cents and weigh in on it. I've covered that a little bit here and there. A lot of the retailers out there are saying, yeah, what he's saying is correct. And the stuff he's talking about with the culture war, things that are going on with sexuality reveals and gender swapping characters and race swapping characters. That stuff is a big problem within comic books. And apparently this made Ryan Higgins feel that he was empowered, emboldened to go out there and talk crap about people that are clearly smarter than he is for actually identifying what the real problem is. Comic books have 2 enormous issues, accessibility and quality right now. And you could say, well, Wes, price is the major issue. Price is an issue because quality sucks. Price is an issue because accessibility really isn't there and it's driving the prices upwards. All these things that we're experiencing right now are happening because accessibility is low and quality is off the charts bad right now. And this is what Mr. Higgins had to say. What a bold proclamation. Just pure bigotry from many retailers these days. I'd prefer the whole industry burn tomorrow than side with them. Go back whatever garbage CG has on Indiegogo and get out of the industry. Keep publishing this stuff. Rich Johnston. And apparently that was on Blue Sky, and I have no intention to ever get a Blue Sky account or even check on that. So I'm going to take Rich Johnston's reporting on this one, that he was actually factual, and copied and paste that one correctly, and say that this guy would rather watch comic books burn than have to admit there's enormous issues with comic books. And some of that is stemming out of hiring all these terrible writers that have no interest in telling superhero stories, that have no interest in telling mainstream stories that can actually appeal to the masses, that only want to do LGBTQ coming of age stories or trans trauma porn or bigotry stories and all that kind of stuff, which you can absolutely tell within the superhero genre itself. It just can't be the main story. It just has to be a subplot that's going on. But none of these morons lately have figured that out. And Ryan Higgins would rather see everything burn than for us to get rid of all the stuff that isn't selling right now and actually do something to help comic book retailers out, which he is one of. He is a comic book retailer. And I would say that outs Ryan Higgins as not being a businessman, but an agenda-driven fraud and moron that wants everything to die. And this whole thing, well, just go join CG, and back their Indiegogo campaign. That's absolutely insane. These are comic book retailers. They want to sell at scale, which means you have to get it at a good price and flip it for a decent amount of profit. That's not really what a Comicsgate and Indiegogo are going for. They're not going for widely accessibility and all that kind of stuff. And I hate to break it to Mr. Higgins here, but CG kind of already won. They don't have to read mainstream comic books anymore. They don't have to go to Comics Experience. They don't have to go to Fantastic Comics. They don't have to go anywhere. They don't have to go to Mile High Comics, Graham's, or whatever. They can go and get their comic books on Indiegogo, bypass all of this because they don't like the quality, and go find the comics that they want to read, and they don't have to go and support DC and Marvel anymore. They've already won. The pros that are in CG don't have to work for DC. They don't have to work for Marvel. They don't have to listen to a moron like Alana Smith explain to them why this story that they don't want to tell is really, really important, and force them to write a story that they don't want to. They make a comfortable living They found their audience, and they basically just removed you from the equation. And guess what happened along the way, Ryan? A lot of other comic pros figured out maybe EVS knows what's going on here. Maybe Aaron Lopresti actually has a good idea here. Maybe Brian Pulido was right all along. I don't need to work for DC and Marvel. I don't need to write stories that I don't want to write about characters that I used to love that have been ruined over the past decade. I will go and create my own company as an imprint under Image Comics, or I'll go to Substack, or I'll go to Indiegogo, or I'll go anywhere else in the world but DC and Marvel and help back up the direct market itself. So yeah, it's gonna burn and it's gonna go down because everybody figured out that the CG guys were kind of right once they did the proof of concept. As a creator, you don't need DC and Marvel. The direct market needs DC and Marvel. Ryan Higgins needs DC and Marvel to be thriving, but the actual creative talent themselves don't need it. There are other avenues that they want to do comic books. There are other avenues that they just want to be creative in video games and storyboarding and all kinds of stuff out there. So it's burning in CG1, I hate to break it to you. And a lot of these retailers can't count on CG and Indiegogo campaigns to actually stock their bookshelves full of material that people want to spend money for. They already spent their money when they bought it directly from the creators themselves while they crowdfunded it. And now they have an entire system and logistics and timetables, and they can deliver projects basically on time with high quality materials and all that stuff. And they don't need the direct market anymore. The direct market needs the creators. The direct market needs Marvel and DC, but this guy hopes that it all burns down. And then the admission on his part, this is the best part of the entire thing. And look, despite being one of the most liberal areas in the country, our best-selling comics are all by middle-aged, straight white men. My customers aren't buying Iceman or Tim Drake either. There's a reason those books get canceled quickly, but Marvel and DC have to try. They're going to keep reaching out to new audiences because mid-40s straight white guys like myself eventually stop reading, usually when we're dead. Gotta love the admission that the best-selling titles are still written by middle-aged straight white guys, while all the stuff that this guy is championing, he would rather see the industry burn before we canceled the Tim Drakes and the Iceman. They're not selling either, even though he's in the one area in the US where there might be some interest in the characters. You want to know why there's no interest? Because the stories suck, because the creators are bad, because people are fed up. And you fucking wish, Ryan Higgins, that lifelong comic book readers in their mid-40s would stick it out till we're dead. I think we've proven over the last, 5 to 8 years, that is not the case. That eventually everybody has a tipping point. Everyone has a breaking point. Everyone has that moment when it's their favorite fucking character and they go, you know what? I've been doing this for 25 years. I've got an enormous collection of 50,000 comic books or 10,000 comic books. There's stuff out there that I haven't read that I would like to get to, and it's just not worth it anymore to go and buy new comic books created by DC and Marvel, because I know if it's something that I'm attached to or something that I care about, they're absolutely going to drop the ball, and I don't want to do it anymore. If they continue to deliver high-quality comic books, I think he's right. I think those middle-aged white dudes in their 40s that this guy is very contemptuous against, even though he's one of us, apparently, we would stick it out to the end. We would actually read till we're dead, which, for the most part, I don't know if you notice this, the average life expectancy for a man nowadays is up into his 80s. That would be another 40 years of patronage by a vast majority of the people that were supported the comic book industry for the last 20 years, but now you've given them a reason to step away, and I don't blame them one bit. I'm hanging around because I want to document how stupid these fucking people are. I want to be the one that said, hey, look, Ryan Higgins was fucking dumb all along. I thought he was dumb from the very beginning. There's a reason I never covered it on here until he absolutely did the most hypocritical thing in the world and said, I'd rather watch comic books burn before Tim Drake, Robin, and Iceman get canceled, even though my own customers in the most liberal area in the country could give two fucks less because the quality absolutely sucks across the board with these stories. It turns out really high quality superhero comic book writers want to write superhero comic books. They don't want to write LGBTQ coming of age stories. They don't want to write trans trauma porn. And they found out by seeing what CG has done over the past 5, 6, 7 years or whatever, they don't need to go work for DC and Marvel to write high quality, really good superhero comic books. And they don't need them to distribute them. They can go direct to the customer. They can go do a newsletter. They can do digital. They can go for an indie. They can self-publish. They can do whatever the fuck they want. And they don't need DC and Marvel anymore. I wonder why everybody left in about a 2 or 3 year period all at the exact same time. We know that Marvel and DC didn't lower their page rates. They basically just kept them the same. They left because they knew it wasn't worth it anymore either. Not only did you run off all those people that you thought would be there until the day they died, you actually ran off all the creators as well by making them write bullshit stories that are directed by editorial rather than actual creative people that knew how to tell stories. This is the end of what Ryan Higgins had to say. Now you can argue about quality, which is a concern. There's a lot of bad comics out there, but there always is. Sales on Amazing Spider-Man aren't falling because of some woke propaganda. DC didn't take a major hit during Night Terrors because of some gay character. There's quality and editorial concerns for sure. Again, like there's always been. Things like the post-pandemic opening up of travel and sports and the recent economic roller coaster cause way more problems. Targeted hate groups like CG will pull some fence sitters away from the industry. Pandemic-driven speculation and subsequently people cutting back with their investment that don't pan out or are likely hurting the indie companies more than anything. But I don't see how cutting all new comics helps you. They're all just such extreme reactions to a multitude of problems. Extreme reaction, sir. You said you wanted the entire industry to burn. Who said we should stop doing new comic books altogether? There's a fucking quality problem. You actually have to bring in good creators. You have to bring in people that want to tell the best stories with the best creators in the best universes. Mark Millar painted out a picture of how you could probably solve this, and then you all took an enormous shit on him because he wasn't exactly politically aligned with you, because he was actually willing to go out there and speak his mind about what's actually hurting the comic book industry itself. There's two major issues, accessibility and fucking quality. And if you think all the gender swaps and the race swaps and the fucking sexuality reveals isn't a huge part of that, because it doesn't attract good writers. It attracts people like Joanne Starr. It attracts people like fucking Jadzia Axelrod. It attracts writers like a fucking Steve Fox or a Steve Orlando. The very worst writers in the world right now on comic books are all working for DC and Marvel because all the good people went away. Yeah, they didn't actually pull off the fence sitters, as you want to call them. They actually went out and pulled away the most talented people in the industry, almost all at the exact same time, because they knew that there was another option out there. They didn't want to keep writing really shitty superhero stories that no one cares about. I would rather go do my own fucking character and see what happens. I'll roll the dice and bet on myself this time, because DC and Marvel don't have it. And this is an enormous issue. And it's not just Phil Boyle predicting the demise of the direct market in the not too distant future. There's another guy out there, Chuck Krasinski, owner of Mile High Comics. I'm going to have another video on him in the not too distant future. But I need to get through this here first. But Ryan Higgins, you are a grade A fucking idiot. You are a moron. You think your enemy is CG. They basically ignored you. They left you and created their own little slice of the industry to do whatever they wanted to, and they found their own customer base while you lost yours. Your enemy is Marvel and DC. Your enemy is accessibility, awareness. Your enemy is fucking quality, and that is dropped across the board because they have to try. Oh, they fucking tried, all right. They've tried for like 8 or 9 years straight. We've been through all new, all different Marvel. We've been through Marvel Now. We've been through Marvel Legacy. We've been through DCU. We've been through fucking Future State. We've tried it as many times in as many possible ways as you can try it and failed every step of the way. And people decided they didn't want to stay around until they died because they knew in all likelihood it wouldn't get fixed, before they died. So why fucking stick around? Why try? Why even worry about it? Ryan Higgins, you are absolutely part of the problem. You are not a businessman. You are somebody out there with an agenda that wishes your industry was something that it's not. I know that you hate yourself. When you look in the mirror, you're like, you are the worst person in the world. I wish I had every customer in the world besides myself and people that look like me. I hate to break it to you, but that is the core audience for comic books. But let's be honest, it's not even there anymore. You can't even get the people that were going to stick around for the rest of their lives and stick it out till the day they died, because even they got fucking fed up with this bullshit. And earlier I talked about how Mark Millar had this great plan, something that really wouldn't cost Marvel or DC anything, but would absolutely make them a ton of money in the long run. And what did people like Ryan Higgins and Rich Johnston and the fucking Heidi McDonald's go out there and do? So they shit on him for what he said, despite being 100% right in his point. Absolutely ridiculous stuff here. There's also a link in the video description.